Another G4 Guitar Teacher Hangout. David Hart's my name. We'll be following our standard format and asking questions and coming up with answers. And I do have a question that I'll just throw up at the beginning here, which is from a teacher who can't be here but really wanted me to sort of go over this, and I said I would. And that's the question of connecting skills to songs. And this is one that I know has been a big one for quite a few teachers, where they're it's not getting the motivation they want from their students. The students aren't practicing because they don't actually connect, or they're not practicing the skills, and they're not or following the course because they don't understand, or they don't feel, they're not motivated by the skills because they can't see the connection to what they actually want to do. They're kind of wanting to go straight for their songs. So he wanted me to sort of talk a little bit about that, which I will. But before I do that, I'll just jump in to you guys and get a question or a topic that each of you want to talk about tonight. I'll start with you, Ben. Did you have something that you wanted to cover?
Yeah, just it's quite a general one, really, I suppose, and quite a personal one. I've just hit almost 55 students, or 55 enrolments.
Wow, good.
I'm fighting my way through the intros, getting them through and getting them signed up. I've actually got 45 monthly subscribers, so I've got 9 people at the moment on intros, 1 or 2 coming to the end of that. My sign up is around about 80%, 90%, so I get very few dropouts after the 5 weeks. So I'm fairly confident that give it another few weeks and I'll be up to sort of well over 50 subscribers. It's getting a little bit where I'm almost feeling like, really sort of relating to what you just said about connecting skills to songs, I'm still feeling like, even though I've taught, as you know, for years, I still need more experience teaching the method. I'm almost feeling like I want to step back and say, right, if I can run with these 50-odd people and learn everything I can from these guys, rather than going crazy. The idea of what Paul did last week was amazing, getting up to 95 students, but me, in my head, that almost frightens me. It'd be wonderful, but I'm thinking I might lose a quarter of those the next day because I can't cope with it. Do you know what I mean? I almost feel like I want to just sort of sit with these. What I'm getting at is that okay? Or should you, bear in mind, I'm still marketing, but should you still be pushing to get as many in and sort of allow yourself to lose people as a learning process? That's what I'm fighting with. I'm still of the opinion I want to keep hold of as many students as I can and keep them all going, keep them all happy, rather than going the other way where you get as many in as you can and be prepared to lose some out the other side, you know?
Yeah.
Quite a deep topic, quite a big one, maybe for another day.
Actually, no, it's a fantastic topic, and I'm happy to go overtime even to try and cover that, because I did mention something about that today, and interestingly enough, I'm in the same position as you, where we're at 50 odd franchisees, and I switched off the marketing because it was becoming overwhelming. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to cope with it, and the quality of what I wanted to be able to deliver to you guys would have went down. It was an absolute guarantee. So we're in the same boat. And so I'll talk to you about that. Yeah, I'll come up to that. Well, let's do it this way. We'll jump into that topic now, and then I will. What I'm going to try and do with these videos, as I've sort of worked out, is I'm going to split them up anyway and do them into topics. And so we might talk for an hour or whatever tonight, and then I'll split it up, and it might be 10-minute videos. That's what we're going to do with these. So that way we can actually find each video that we need. So let's do that. Let's cover that first, and then I'm going to cover the first one I talked about, and then I'll get into go with the other guys and see what we can get into. So how fast should you grow? This is really a very important question, and we sometimes think that we can't grow too fast, that there's you can't have too many students. Well, the truth is you can have too many students, and you can grow too fast. It's a problem that I've struck many times, and blindly so. And my mother went through it, and not that I was aware of it, but my mother went from having one shop where she was making in excess of $1 million a year. She was profiting from one store that she owned. She was selling bedroom, I think, and this happened when I was a kid, and it was It was almost a surreal experience because my parents divorced when I was quite young, and we lived with my grandmother, and we all lived in one room, my brother, my mother, and my grandmother, and it was almost like a scene from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. We were quite poor, and we didn't have anything, and my mother bought second-hand clothes and all that sort of thing. So but what happened is within a few years she went from that to us buying a big, two-story house in one of the very expensive suburbs of Sydney, and having all this stuff, and it was the transformation for us. It was interesting as kids, but it was all kind of it just happened. But what happened is that my mother then went from one store, which did really well, to opening 2 more stores. So she expanded to 3 stores, and she ended up with about 20 employees, and she just grew too quickly, and it all came crumbling down. So that whole business, she ended up having to come back and rescue the whole thing, and all this sort of stuff. Now, I went through it a couple of times myself, where I created businesses and they grew really quickly and everything went great, and then bang, here I was overwhelmed and I couldn't understand it. I had a school with almost 500 students and 20-something teachers, and it was just booming. Everyone's going, "Wow, you're doing so well, Dave." And then I look at my bank account and go, "Well, actually, I'm not. I'm not making any money." And so the problem when we grow too fast is that we haven't tested the business plan. We don't know if the business plan is actually going to work. So when we get to a certain size, when we get too busy, we don't have time anymore to check if there are any leaks in our boat. We're so busy, rowing the boat or driving the boat, that we're not seeing that we're heading straight towards an iceberg, and we're gonna be sinking. So within your business, and I referred to the book today, Great by Choice, and if you haven't read that, definitely give that a read. What he really goes into is how the most successful companies, the 10x companies, they had a kind of a plan where they would only grow a certain amount each year, and in most cases it was around 20%. They had like a 20% growth per year. So if you find yourself growing too fast and you don't have the systems in place, then what happens is that you are at risk of your business collapsing, imploding. And that's because if you don't have the systems in place, then you end up working like crazy. You'll find yourself you're working like 16 hours a day just to keep people from screaming at you. So the situation and this happened with G4 when I did it, because we exploded. We went from literally just me teaching all the students, which was about 80, 90 students. Then I brought in a teacher, and then it went bang, bang, bang. Suddenly I had 5 schools, and I couldn't get enough teachers, and we were literally getting 10 calls a day for people trying to enroll, and I had to put the brakes on. I had to back off. And luckily I didn't let that one go too far, but it's still a lot of damage was done already. So these are examples of how the business can grow too quickly. So this is what I've done with G4. It was very exciting at the start of the year. This time last year we had around 25 franchisees. By February, March this year we'd hit 50. So it literally doubled in a very short period of time. And it looked like it continued had I not switched the marketing off. But what I realized very quickly was that if I don't switch this off, if I don't slow this down, then I'm going to end up in trouble. So what I've done is I've capped it at 50, where I don't want any more than 50 until I feel absolutely comfortable that we've got all the systems in place, that I'm happy with our marketing plan, our websites, that we've got all the training that we need, that you guys are getting all the information support. So you can see we're building all that increase of the quality of the network. And the same needs to happen with you when you're teaching. If you're feeling that bend now where you hit that 50 students, I'm telling you right now, it's okay to put the brakes on. But what we want to do is work together. And that's what I'm here for. That's what Emma's here for, because we have been at the point that you are and beyond. And so what we want to do is go, okay, if you're feeling that pressure, let's talk about where those pressure points are and your pain points, and let's work out what systems you need to put in place to make that happen. And I know it's happened to other members as well. There are a couple of members, I'm not going to name anyone, but there are a couple of members who hit that 50 mark, and then things started to change. They were saying things like, my marketing's not working, I'm losing lots of students at the moment, all these kind of things that they were saying, and that's because they didn't have the systems in place, and they just had not been in that position before. When they joined Year 4, they'd either started from zero, or they'd never had more than about 20 or 30 students. And so as they sort of crept above that 50, 60, 70 kind of mark, that's when they started to feel the difference. So I'm giving the okay. Does that help, Ben? Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess I know it's a different environment, but I guess what's playing in the back of my mind is that I'm really excited and pleased how well it's gone since I left the old teaching job. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, Christ, I taught for 12 years, and the most students I ever had on my books, this wasn't turning up each week, this is on my books, was 60 students. And I'm thinking, I left there in April this year, it's October, that's just over 6 months, and all of a sudden, not only have I got nearly as many as I ever had in the 10 or 12 years, but they're turning up every week and they're paying me. So it's quite an unusual, I know that's good, that sounds crazy. I know I'm doing a good job, but it is, I think overwhelming is the right word. It's like, Christ, hang on, whoa, something's going very right, but just a little thing in there doesn't feel quite right. I'd hate to it explode and me get to 75 students, then all of a sudden come January I'm back down to 50, because I'd then be thinking, what a complete waste of time and money that has been in taking these people in, and because I haven't been able to deal with them just being spat out the other end,
Yeah, and the point here is, and this comes out of the E-Myth as well, in that you have to have time to build your business. So if you spend so much of your time working in your business, you don't have time to work on your business. And so you've got to look at that, and you've got to say, okay, right now 50 students is all I can do to allow enough time for me to work on the business. From this point on, I have to work out how to manage this better, where the pain points. So the exercise I would give you is to work out what are the things that you would need to delegate, as soon as possible, to be able to allow yourself to grow just to 60 students, so that you can comfortably go to 60 students. What are the things that you need to do right now just to get to 60 students? And then once you've got that in place, take it to 60 students, and then work out what you're going to need to do to get to 70 students. And that's like I said, I'm in exactly the same place. I'm working out right now, what do I need to do to manage 60 members? With 50, I'm just at my kind of point where I can handle it. What do I now need to do to take on without compromising? And that's really, I think, what we're talking about here is you don't want to be compromising with the current students. You don't want to suddenly drop the quality that you're offering. And that if, for example, if you bring in a trainee teacher who's going to eventually take over your students, there are two ways roughly that you could do it. One is you could just bring in a teacher and go, there you go, do your best. And then you know that it's not going to probably work out very well. Even if they're a very good teacher, they don't know the way you teach, they don't know your systems, they're different to you. So you're going to have problems no matter what. It's, again, the E-Myth, it's handing the books over to Harry and then expecting Harry just to know how you want to work. So that's a recipe for failure in business, and that's what most people do, interestingly enough. And that's because it feels like the easy thing to do. But the hard thing to do is to bring someone in and really spend time with them, really train them, and not hand over the reins until you can see in your students' eyes that they're comfortable with you not being there. Yeah. That's the point.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. This might sound crazy, but that thought at the moment, because this is all me, and I've built this up completely myself over the last 18 months and worked really hard, yada yada yada. The idea of giving one of those students to somebody else frightens the life out of me at the moment, and while
these are your children.
Yeah, while I'm at the moment, I'm working, or teaching rather, 4 days a week. 1 day is shorter, which has ended up being almost my intro day, not quite. I've probably got, if I'm honest, at the moment, I've probably got enough room to get to maybe 65, 70, if I squeeze things and move some other people around, and I've got those slots there without working any extra hours. And I'm completely comfortable. If I'm honest, if I was doing that for the rest of my teaching life, compared to working 5 days a week, 9, 10 hours a day for somebody else, I'm happy with that. But I know I need to get past that at some point, but I just don't feel ready for that. Do you know what I mean? In my head, not yet.
Yeah. You need to get uncomfortable, Ben. You got to get uncomfortable. And yeah, look, I don't want to take away the enjoyment because you're obviously very happy and content where you are. But what you need to do is fast forward and think, well, I'm enjoying this now. This is great now, but I know that will come a point when I will want to be a bit more free. I won't want to be here so much. That'll happen. You might have kids. You might want to take 6 months off. Whatever it is that you want to do, you want to get yourself to that position just so you have the choice, if nothing else. Okay, cool. That's great. That was a really good topic. I'm just going to cover very quickly here this other topic of connecting skills to student goals. And this is really important, and it's one of those things that I have spoken about before, but I'll sort of throw it again. I'll do a kind of 5-minute spiel on it. Connecting, it's not so much connecting the skills to songs, it's connecting what we do to their goals and dreams. So if a student comes to us and we're not thinking about them and what's in it for them, then you're going to lose them. And it's like, I always bring it back to this thing, it's any relationship is the same. It doesn't matter whether it's a relationship with your student, whether it's a relationship with your partner, whether it's the relationship with your bank manager. All relationships are basically very similar. And that is that if the other person is not feeling that you're considering them in the relationship, then they will usually want to end that relationship fairly quickly. So in the case of your partner, if you're not, acknowledging them or taking them to a nice restaurant or listening to what they want to do, etc., they're soon going to tire of you. Your bank manager, if you're not paying your fees and you're paying your bank loan, and that's how you show love to your bank manager. You pay your loan on time. They'll soon end their relationship with you. So when it comes to the student, if you're not, they're paying you. That's their part. If they're not seeing that you are giving back, in other words, you're not acknowledging them and looking at what's important to them, then they're not going to want to stick around. And we can very easily, and this is what happens a lot of the time, is that we push away that responsibility. We say, oh, well, they didn't practice, or they were lazy, or they didn't really want to do the hard work. We can make all those kind of claims and excuses, and I'm not saying that they're not true sometimes and that they're not true some of the time, but the fact is, if it's happening a lot, then chances are that it's got a lot to do with you and the fact that you're not giving them what they want. So and let me rephrase that, you're not giving them what they need in a way that they want. And so when we are working with students, what we want to do is really get in touch with their goals and their desires and dreams and so forth, but deliver it through the G4 method. What the G4 guitar method is about is keeping the learning structured, keeping everybody on track, such as yourself. It's for lack of a better analogy, it's like flying from London to New York, and they have to do all the right things to get that plane safely from London to New York, but on the way they're going to entertain you with movies and food and friendly service and all the rest of it to make it as pleasant as possible. But they have to get certain things done. They can only give you so much leg room because of the costing, and you're not going to be able to put your chair right back and all those sort of things. So there are things that are a part of the trip that you've got to put up with, and it's the same with learning guitar. There are certain things about learning guitar that you're going to have to put up with, which is practice. But when you're clear on the destination, admittedly you can't jump out of a plane. I guess they've got a fairly strong case there, but in our case they get it every week. They can decide whether or not to keep coming, or every month. But what you want to do is in your lessons is to be talking about relating everything that you're doing to their goals and their dreams. And I'm not even saying specifically songs here, but it generally is songs is the connection that they have. So part of this is, and I think this again is a missing element for some of you anyway, is the inspiration and the mindset and the belief in where you're going with your student. If you need to be able to look at each one of your students and look them in the eye and absolutely believe where they're going. You need to say, I know where you're going to go. Now, if we take Ben for an example, and I can apply this to any of you guys, when I think about you and I talk to you about what's happening with your business, I absolutely see the goals. I can see you teaching 100 students in a group, no problem. That's very clear to me, and I can see you doing it. It's not a like, oh, you know, maybe, or you don't have it. I don't think like that. I look at every single one of you, and I know you have the potential to do it. And so my goal or my drive, if you like, is to keep that alive and keep tapping into that with you. But part of that comes from also myself. So in order for you to, when people are often not inspired by you, or you don't feel that motivation, or your students aren't practicing or whatever, check in with yourself. Check in how motivated you are about what you're doing, about your teaching. Are you inspired about your students learning, about becoming great guitar players, about at least finishing the G4 method levels? If you can't honestly look yourself in the mirror and go, I'm 100% inspired that I'm going to make every one of these students achieve their goals, then you're probably going to fall short. And that's what you need. And that's I think, like I said, is often what's missing, is that inspiration. So that's for, like I said, one of the members, and I hope that helps. But we can talk about that more in another hangout as well. Okay, so let me move across to Rob. Rob, did you have a question or topic that you wanted to cover today?
Well, I do, but now I want to ask something about that.
Okay, cool. Go for it.
I have a lot of mature students, and quite often all I want to do is just, enjoy playing, but not want to sort of, be great players, because that's just not what they're into. They might be 65 and they just want to play a song. And it's just, like, if you take them down the reading, they're just not interested. They don't want to read because they just want to play a song. So where do you stand sort of with the method then? You just sort of break away from it and give them what they want?
Yeah, I understand there's a certain kind of student that is not necessarily, the method definitely works better on younger students. With your older age students, we don't want to necessarily squeeze round pegs into square holes if it's really what they don't want to do. I would bring it back to the fact, when I worked, because I did work with older students, and all my students, I got them to read. Some of them didn't want to do it in the beginning. Some of them resisted, but I looked at it from the point of view not so much of trying to please just them. I looked at it as my business as a whole. Where am I going with my business? And if you think about any successful business, when Apple are thinking, creating in the iPad or the iPhone or whatever, you go back to the early Apple computers, and they got a lot of criticism early on. But what Apple said, we're looking for people who want an easy-to-use computer. We're not looking for people who want to buy different parts and connect it and insert all these different kind of programs, whatever. And I was a PC user for a long time. Then I switched to Mac. And as a business person, and a lot of people are in the same space as me, I don't want a computer that I have to keep working out. Is this the right SIM card? Does that sound card work with this? So, do you know what I mean? I don't want to know all that stuff. I just want to get on and use the computer. I want the computer to just work. And so it's a bit like a manual car driver and an automatic car driver. There was, and especially if we go back a few years, I know with my dad when he was young, all the men drove manuals. You weren't a man unless you drove a manual car. In the US it's like stick. Do you remember that, Rob? That was the era, right? Real men don't drive automatics. But that's all changed now, and most people want to drive automatic. I still drive a manual. I guess I just like it. But that's the way people think. So it's the same with learning guitar. There's going to be certain people who want certain kinds of things, and do they fit into your business? The problem if you're trying to please everybody is you end up moving away from your whole business model, and that it starts to break down, and you will find that with your generally with your teaching that you're kind of spreading out. While you've got 10 or 20 students, it doesn't really make a big difference. But when you get to 100 students, you're probably not going to want to spend a lot of time with those students who aren't on the program. It's just because it's a lot of work for a handful of students, and they're very difficult to teach in groups, because if you bring 5 students together, 5, 60-year-old, if this is what we're talking, these particular students all want to learn songs, all want to learn their particular songs, it becomes very difficult. What we're trying to do and achieving, and what I always say to students, is that I'm teaching you the skill so you can go and learn any song you like. You don't need me to teach you the songs.
Well, that's what I tell them.
I'm teaching you the skills. Yeah. So reading is just another skill. If you don't want to learn to read, make that decision after you've at least finished level 1. Let's do level 1. Stick with me for level 1, and that's what I would say to students. I said, do this, and then tell me that you don't want to do it, because it's something that I think you will find helpful, even if just for the sake of theory, to understand theory. It's a great way to sort of explain theory. So, yeah, and I think sometimes, if I just add one more thing to that, is that the kind of passion and conviction you come from. This is something that was great to hear from Doug Lemov, from his book series Teach Like a Champion. And I don't know if you know much about Doug Lemov, but basically his take was that great teachers, and he did a whole study on the best teachers in the US, school teachers, and they had a way of making even the most boring subjects exciting. That was the difference. And I go back to my school teachers, and it was the same. The best teachers, it wasn't necessarily the best subjects, it was the ones who made it the most exciting, the subject, interesting.
Yeah. All right. My actual question was along the lines with the levels.
Yep.
I've found that a few of my students need to keep going or progressing onto sort of level 2 stuff, but they haven't got to the end of level 1 in other things. I don't know, it feels like if you hold them back, they're just going to be bored. So, I don't know, what I've been doing is just bringing out maybe the next arpeggio sheet or something like that. But yeah, that's sort of one thing I'm not sure what to do with.
That's a great question. And the whole idea, again, of the G4 method and the format is that you can say to them, okay, here's the second checklist. You've ticked off the arpeggios, let's say, in level 1. This is level 2. Go and have a look at it, and you can try. You can keep going on, but we're not going to do them in the lessons. In the lessons, what we're going to be doing is completing level 1. So that means that if your reading is not up to speed, then we're going to be focusing mostly on your reading until we get it up to speed and tick it off. So again, you got to kind of sell it in a positive way, and you do want to mix it up and keep it interesting. But there's also ways to make even what they've done, as we've talked about before, handicapping at level 1. So let's say that they're doing a C scale, for instance, and they can play the C scale. We know there's always ways to improve the C scale. They can do it faster. They can do it in sequences. They can play it in different places on the guitar. So there are lots of ways to make even that scale more difficult for them at their level.
Right.
Yeah. I
actually missed probably most of that because the screen just keeps freezing up here, but I'll watch it later anyway.
Yep. Okay, cool. I'll just give you 10 seconds worth of it if it doesn't cut out, and that is simply that you can keep them on the same skills. Does it keep cutting out? Okay.
It just keeps freezing up. I'm not getting any sound, and then you sort of pop back in for a minute.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah,
you're
I've noticed
frozen up again.
I've noticed that, a couple of times with your connection. It's a bit... Okay, cool. Yeah. No worries.
I think it's probably my connection here.
All right. Yeah, I don't think anyone else is having a problem with me, so
that's a dodgy one.
No problem. So I'll jump over to Shane, Greg. Shane, have you got a question that you would like to ask, a topic?
Yeah, I've got these. I got these 2 students, and they're siblings, and I'm having a lot of issues with kind of keeping them, getting them to practice at all. I've kind of tried every approach. I even went as far as went to my old uni, lecturers and kind of said, what are some good strategies? And I've tried everything. And these kids just go, yep, we'll practice. But I think 90% of the problem is their dad comes once in a blue moon, and the mother has a little 3-year-old, and so she just sits out in the car.
Yeah.
And it seems like she's very disinterested.
How old are they? The kids?
They're 11.
Okay.
Yeah. So 10 and 11, I think. So they're very, and so I've kind of said to them, I said, look, I kind of gave them, last week I said to them, look, this is how it is. We're not going to get anywhere if you don't practice. I said, I've tried sugarcoating, I've tried everything, but when it comes down to it, this is only 20% of what you're going to learn. I said the 80% comes from your practice at home. And they just said, okay, we'll practice, but I've got them on Wednesday, and I'm kind of just assuming that they'll not have practiced.
But how long have they been learning for now?
So this is their 2nd month subscription.
Okay. Yep. All right. So they've done about 9-10 lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So they did the intro, and then this is their 2nd month. Yeah. So after that.
So with the practice, did they do any in the beginning? Has there been any practice happening at any point?
Yeah. Like, it was kind of like here and there, maybe 3 days a week for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Throughout the intro, and then I kind of just said to her, I said, that's really great. We're just going to build on top of that, guys, and kind of just tried to make it sound very nurturing, very positive. And they said, okay, yep, no worries. We'll definitely be doing more than that soon. And then it just kind of, after the intro, it kind of stagnated.
Okay.
And I just kind of said, when are we going to do some practice? Like this week, come on, just 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day, that's it. I said, even just 5 days a week. I said, and you can build up to those 2 extra days. I said, if we don't practice, your fingers are still going to get sore. The skin on the fingers it's not going to toughen up, and it's just not going to be fun. Once you push past, your fingers toughening up, then you just open yourself up to a broad new range of things, and kind of just explain that to them, and they didn't really, it felt really positive, but at the same time,
and they're probably acknowledging what you're saying, but when they're at home and they've got a choice of practicing guitar or playing the latest game or watching TV, guitar doesn't.
I even taught them through the whole, give yourself like holidays, and so do 5 minutes of guitar, 15 minutes on the iPad, another 5 minutes on the guitar, and just do that over 3 hours, and then your practice is done.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, that's a really good idea, but they did nothing with the idea.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So let's have a look at a couple of scenarios, and we'll just sort of go through it. So, what's their schedule look like? What days and times did you guys decide on for the practice?
Well, so we sat down. When we went through it, they kind of went, okay, we get home from school at 3:30, and we're starting to eat. So we'll do 4 to 4:30 every day, and they've each got a guitar, which I thought would encourage them to practice more because they could play together.
Yeah.
But it just kind of collects dust.
Okay, so just run with me here for a minute. So 4 to 4:30 is practice time? Is that the scheduled practice time?
Yeah. So every day.
Okay. So when they come back and they haven't practiced, and you look at their schedule, what do you say to them?
I said, what happened this week? Did you have you guys had a full week, birthdays, anything like that? And they'll sit there, and they're two beautiful little kids, and they just kind of go, no. And that's all I get. And so then I kind of just go, okay, so
if we go to, and this is I'm just kind of walking through how I would do it. I would go, okay, guys, what happened on Monday between 4 and 4:30? Where were you? And because you had an appointment, with your guitar. Your guitar was waiting for you at 4 o'clock, and you didn't turn up. So where were you? You know, you can understand that if Shane, I made an appointment with you to meet you at 4 o'clock, and I wasn't there, and then the next week we made that same appointment, again I wasn't there. How often would you keep turning up?
Yeah, not that often.
You wouldn't keep coming, would you?
No.
If you did keep coming, you'd probably have a serious issue if you kept turning up and I didn't. So these guys have made an arrangement with you, really, but with their guitar as well, to turn up at 4 o'clock each day to be there for their guitar. But they're not doing it. What it tells you is that they're actually not acknowledging that fact. They're not. What they're doing is they're coming back into you each week and saying, oh, I didn't practice. And so my first thing I would do with them is to say, guys, here's the deal. And you're old enough. You're 11 years old. You don't need mummy and daddy to be there for you. And they know this. Okay, at that age, they're well aware that they don't need their mother and father to be running around for them. Mum's busy. She's got a 3-year-old. And so even though we talk a lot about parents and getting parent support, we do want that. Okay, we want to try and bring the parents in as much as possible, but we don't want to use that as an excuse. We don't want to say, well, the parents aren't helping, therefore you can't blame the kids. What we want to do is we want the kids to take responsibility, especially at this age. I'm not talking about a 5-year-old. A 5-year-old needs parents there. But when we're talking 10, 11, they're old enough to know what they're doing. And this thing I always say, if a 10 or 11-year-old doesn't know what they're doing, why do they? How come they know how to use a computer better than most adults? How come there's 10 and 11-year-olds out there with $1 million businesses, or who are hacking into secret US installations? These are 10 and 11-year-olds are doing this stuff. How come they can do it at that age, yet they can't be responsible for their guitar practice? So here's what's happening is that in their minds, they're not taking it seriously. They don't see that what you're asking them is not a, hey guys, can you do me a bit of a favor? This is what you need to be responsible for. And so I need you guys, and I don't say it this way, but just so you can kind of get the drift of what I'm saying, is I need you guys to grow up. I need you guys to be, mature about this and to be doing your practice and be taking responsibility for your practice, or going to your parents and saying, I don't want to do guitar because I don't want to do the practice. Don't keep leading your parents on that you do want to do guitar and you do want to keep coming here. So I'm not. This is not what I say, by the way. This is just me kind of talking out loud of what's going in my mind. So what I actually do say to the students in this case is start with them and with their potential. Did you see the video I did in Sydney? Yes,
I did with Joachim.
Yes, yeah, with one of Joachim's students, right? So that was the video of with the boy who was about 11, I think. Yeah. So to give you an example, what was the first thing I did with him?
You kind of said, how long, you've been playing for a couple of years. You kind of established that he was essentially committed. I'm just trying to remember. You established that he was committed to the guitar and that he enjoyed playing the guitar.
Yeah. And then so I built a bit of rapport with him at the beginning. Yeah. Okay. Cool. What was the next thing I did after that?
I can't really remember.
Okay, cool. That's good. This is good because we can sort of break it down. The next thing that I did was build him up. Build him up, his confidence, his potential, because I'm not going to come in to immediately criticizing him. I'm not going to come and say, hey, you haven't been practicing enough. What's going on here? You've been learning for, 2 years and you practice like 20 minutes a week? I'm not going to do that to him. What I'm going to do is come in pointing out his strengths and his potential, and that's the way that I approach students. So what I basically did with him is that I said, can you play a couple of chords for me or show me a chord? And he played. Wow! And his fingers were really good. And he obviously had done practice at some time. He's been playing for 2 years, so we would expect him to be. And he's been under the G4 tuition, so we know that he's getting the right technique. He's just not doing enough of it. But that's immediately I praised him for that. I pointed out good points. Now, even if your students don't have anything like that that's obvious right now, there are other things you can praise them for. You can just praise them for turning up. You can say, what I really like about you guys is you're always on time. Fantastic. Or you're sitting really well. Look at the way you're sitting. That's fantastic. So look for the points, the genuine strengths to point out, and then you build them up. And then after you build them up, what you do then is say, look, you've got so much potential. There's so much that you could be doing here. So let's have a look at this. So here's the thing, and then you talk about the practice. So you go over the practice. In this case, with your students, the problem is you've got a little bit of work to do here because they have lost any kind of seriousness about what's happening. Do you know what I mean? It's been going on for a little while, so they're thinking, this week you step it up, and they're thinking, is he really serious, or is it just another week? Is this just another lecture that we can sort of smile and be cute and hope that he says that's okay? So what I would do this next time that they come in is get serious about it and say, guys, I know you first of all start off with the building them up. I know you guys have got so much potential. I'm really excited about what you guys can do. I know this. You're doing hardly in practice, but you're learning this stuff. You're managing to move forward, and that is a very promising sign. So what I want to try and do this week is get you guys to do 10 minutes a day for me. That's what I'm doing. And if you can do 10 minutes a day for me, then I've got a surprise for you. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what it is now, but if you both whoever can come back next week and have done 10 minutes a day for me for the week, I've got a surprise for. Now, you can give them something. You might want to give them a pick, or just give them a certificate, or whatever. It doesn't have to be anything expensive or big or whatever, but just have something that you want to give them, and just try that. Right? I almost guarantee you that it'll work. Once you build it up, get the potential. So you're basically giving them the belief in themselves, and then you ask them to do the minimum practice, 10 minutes a day for 5 days, and then if they come back and they've done 5 days every day, 10 minutes, you've got something for them. And just their curiosity alone will drive it. And what you'll find is that they'll just do the practice just to be curious, even if they cheat. They'll fill in their practice log just to find out what it is. And if they don't, you don't give them anything, and you don't even tell them what it is. So sorry guys, if you don't do the practice, I can't tell you what the surprise was. Can you try that for me and let me know what happens?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. Give it a shot. Yeah, and if that doesn't work, then come back. Well, the other thing you can do is do a video for me and let me see what's going on in the lesson, and that'll tell me a lot.
Okay. Sure.
Excellent. Now, Shane, one question before we end this. Do you believe these kids have got potential?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
All right. So tell them that. Make sure that they know you know that. It's really important that they realize that how much you believe in them. That you're almost, you're so excited with their potential. If I can just get you guys to practice, this is just going to be amazing. You want to get it across to them somehow. So. All right, beautiful. Okay, I'll go across now to Lalo. Lalo, have you got a question that you wanted to ask? Yep, your mic's looks like it's still muted, Lalo. So, can you hear me? There you go.
Hi,
Good.
David. Hi,
hey,
everyone. It's been a while. I managed to find some time to come on and. Yeah, I did have a question, but I think many of them have been answered from what everything that's been said. I guess I do have a question. I have noticed that some things, really good stuff, comes up on Facebook, and one of the troubles that I have is keeping up with all that. So I'm just wondering if any of that information is being captured somewhere. I'll give you an example. It's in reference to the one that really stood out was for skills. So, for example, songs that use certain progressions. So I thought that some of those tips were really helpful.
Yep, some of it's been captured. What I would suggest you do is just try and capture it yourself, because everybody's going to have different information that is important to them, and if you can sort of grab it when you see it, or even if you want to say, hey, I think we should keep this. I have thought about a forum where we can have that information, but at the same time, I'm thinking we need to filter the information into what's most important, and I think we've got that pretty well covered in the Q&A now, and I'm finding less and less things need to go into the Q&A. The Q&A pretty well answers most of the important questions. I guess one of the big things, and Emma and I were talking about this recently, that is getting kind of missed, and because we see it in a lot of the questions coming up, and that's the mindset, and when I talk about mindset, I'm talking about the confidence that sometimes we see issues with questions where it's showing, that in certain situations that the teacher's unsure about their ability and about their, there's just a lack of confidence in some areas. And so we know, and we've sort of come to realize that we have to be careful. I have to be careful, of course, and Emma as well, that we don't take things for granted, in that the confidence comes from competency. So in other words, I've used this example on language. I'm learning Japanese. When I speak to Japanese people in my limited Japanese, I'm not confident because I'm not competent, if that makes sense. So the same thing is if you're put in a band to play guitar in playing music that you weren't familiar with, that was, say, out of your scope, you're not going to feel confident, again, because you're not competent. So the trick to, as we understand here, is to becoming confident in what you do is to get the skills, to get the competency. The knowledge is important, but what's most important is the actual skills. So what you want to try and do is narrow down where you don't feel confident. What are the things that you don't feel confident about? And one of the areas which we already talked about today, or we've talked about a couple of good points here, is one is connecting the skills to songs. So if you're feeling that you're not that confident with that you're not convincing students, this is not happening, then there's probably a competence issue there in the way that you're actually teaching it and the way that you're communicating. So that's what I would be looking at. What are the communication skills that I'm not getting across? What am I not getting across through in my lessons? What is missing? So question, Lola, I'll just ask you this question because I know you're fairly up on these kind of things. But with communication, what do we use for communication? What are the mediums of communication with your students?
With my students.
Yeah, I mean, verbally we communicate. What's another way that we communicate?
Visually, giving examples visually.
Okay, so using slides or printouts and things like that. Yep.
Yep. Well, demonstrations. You need to demonstrate on a regular basis.
Excellent. Actions. So through your actions. Yep. Anything else?
Sometimes I put things into a story so they can, or
right.
use analogies.
Exactly. That's great. So you give them a story, give them something that they can, run with. They can relate to. That's what a story is basically about. Is about relating to just say that A equals B doesn't mean anything. I'm A. I did this action and therefore I got this, and so they can relate to that, to a person, to a thing, whatever. So yeah, that's great. So if we're having trouble getting our message across through our communication, then we've got to look at our communication. We've got to sort of say, what is it about our communication? So when it comes to communicating, it's not just the words that we say, even though the words are extremely important. And I think a lot of that gets misunderstood in when it comes to communicating. We don't actually use a lot of the right words, or we don't know the power of words, or we say things that come across with the wrong meaning. So the words are very important, but also the tone of your voice. And as musicians, we really understand this. It's not just a matter of playing the notes of a song. It's the tone that we use, the feel that we use. So all the sentiment which comes through your communication. So what I'm getting at here is a lot of the time we're looking at, we do focus a lot on the method, which is great, and we do focus on certain things, the song or the chords or so forth. But what we don't talk enough about, I feel, is the way that we're communicating, the sentiment and the feeling of what we're saying. And when students they're not practicing what we're asking them to practice, or they're not practicing full stop, a lot of that comes from the sentiment that they're feeling from you. How passionate are you about what you're delivering? How passionate are you about your business? And I'm not making a judgment call here. We all have weaknesses in our game. I'm certainly far from perfect, and as all of you are. This is not a, hey, because you've got one student who doesn't practice, therefore you're a failing teacher. This is not at all what I'm saying, and this is me reiterating my communication to make it very clear that what I'm saying is that there's always parts of your communication that you need to be buffing up, improving, and looking for ways to get that message across. So because what we do is we notice the problems more than we notice what's going right. So you can look across your students and you can say, wow, I've got 50 students and 45 of them just are great. But I've got these 5 problem students, and they're the ones I can't get out of my head. I can't go to bed at night because these 5 students. But meanwhile, the other 45 are just cruising. So, but these 5 students are the ones that are going to help you improve as a teacher. They're the ones who are going to challenge you and are telling you what you need to improve and change in your game. And so and I'll just wrap up here, but what I'm really saying is don't get too stuck in the details of what you should be teaching. We've got that covered. That's what G4 is about. It's really just a guide. That's what that's the goal. This is what we're teaching. This is where we're going. Now I need to get to the passion of what I'm teaching. And if I relate it to music, here's the score. They're the notes. You can play it really blandly, or you can find the passion. I want the passion in the music. I don't want you just to play the notes. I want to feel it. I want to cry when I hear you play that. Does that help?
Yeah, that also reminds me of the previous ones you've made where with a team where you talk about how you have to lift your energy for when you're doing the class. So it's very important, and I've been testing that. I tested that in the classes that I have, and I also tested it in my day job as well, and I noticed people respond differently. It takes a lot of energy, but I think it just the more you do it, probably the better I assume you're going to get.
Well, here's the great thing. That's fantastic, and I'm glad you're doing that, because the thing about it is that it does take a lot of energy initially, right? And that's a couple of reasons it does. Is because people, when you're on a low energy level and you're used to running on this kind of low level, then people who are used to interacting with you are also running on that low level with you generally. Okay, either they're people who come down to your level, or they're just people who are at a higher level. They're not around you. They've gone somewhere else. They realize, hey, this guy's not at my level, so I'll go somewhere else. And I'm not saying I'm not describing anyone here, by the way. I'm just giving you, and again, we all have different levels of what I consider myself somewhere in the middle. You meet someone like, Tony Robbins, and he's just like way up here somewhere. The guy's just, I don't know what he's on, but he's just always up. But the fact is that when you have a higher level, and it doesn't mean you're fake and all this, but you do, if you find yourself down a lot, and if you can become aware of it, and this is mindfulness, first of all, become aware that you're down, but to move yourself up, what happens is that people start to give you that energy back. So if we're talking about your students, is that instead of them coming in, oh, g'day Lalo, yeah, I didn't practice much this week, I was tired, whatever, they're going to come in and go, hey, high five, bang, let's do it, and they're up, and so that brings you up. So you don't need to be pulling them up anymore. They're now keeping you up. Everybody's up, and that's what you're aiming for. Is you're literally changing your world around you, and we know this from lots and lots of studies. You're going to earn within a fairly tight range the same money that your friends and people that you hang out with. There's an old saying that says, tell me who are the 5 people you spend the most time with, and I'll know everything about you. So, and that comes to, and that's why joining something like G4 or being part of a group that lifts you higher is what's going to bring you up. and that's what you want, is you want to find ways to bring you up. Now, if I'm down, you guys are probably going to be down or you're going to leave. And so everyone who's going to be doing, yeah, kind of struggling to find students. I've only got 10 students. You know, it's really tough out there. If I'm down, that's what we're going to be like. That would be G4 in a nutshell. But instead, what I'm saying, and it's not me doing it. I know it's not me doing it. I just know that I'm at this level, and so therefore I'm surrounded by people who are at kind of a similar level. So what we're seeing is that more and more I'm hearing people hitting 50 students, hitting 100 students, opening second schools. More and more that's going on. Okay, and that's what's happening. And so you're going to get swept up in that, Lalo, whether you like it or not. It's only going to be a matter of time. You hang around long enough.
Looking forward to it.
And I know how keen you are because you turned up to Paddington. You know that meant the world to me because you made that effort. I know you came a fair way, and you spent a lot of time there, and we hung out. And I know how keen you are, and that's why I'm going to do anything for you because I know that you're fully dedicated, as not just for G4 but with your students as a teacher. And this is the thing, is that when your students feel that same thing, they will be totally committed to you. I know, and I don't want to sort of name names here, but I know all of you guys are doing the same thing. I hear you talk about your students. I hear the way that you're proud, the moments that you share, and kind of, you look at David Aldridge with his concert he just did. He's so proud. He's so excited about that, and he should be. These are the things that you guys are doing that that bring students to you, that make them excited. It's not just the learning guitar; it's the whole life experience. I can't. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's not just about being able to play a guitar. It's about doing something that's significant for them and making a difference in their lives as a teacher. Cool. All right, I'll just jump to Shane Alessio and grab a question from Shane. Shane, what would you like to raise today? Is Shane there?
Yes.
Yeah, there he is. Good.
Hello. Right. Yeah, so, it's just raising my inquiries. It's been the same thing all year. Last year I had a pretty, I was very excited about the amount of inquiries I've been getting, and this basically this whole year it's been really stale.
Okay.
In the beginning of the year, actually, it was really good, but I had so many dropouts. But I've sort of not solved that problem, but I'm having less dropouts than before. So,
yep.
And yeah, I think I mentioned to you, I want to jump back on the Facebook train. But, I've done there's 40,000 residential addresses within a 20-minute drive of my school, and I've done
yep.
those 40,000 addresses a lot.
Okay.
Most of the people who call nowadays, and my current students, say they've received the flyer maybe 8 times now or something. So, yeah.
Have you? Can I ask Shane quickly? Have you
yeah.
been capturing the details of most people who contact you? You're getting their email addresses?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What kind of list would you have by now? I'm talking everyone on your list. Current students, past students, inquiries that haven't enrolled.
Yeah, so I have 2 separate lists, one of current students, and which actually includes former students because I don't take them off the list, and
yep.
students who never enrolled.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're both around 100. The students, there's 150, I think, on the non-enrolled one.
Yep.
And there's maybe 130 on the enrolled one. I don't know the exact numbers. I can look them up for you. I'd have to sign into MailChimp, but it's something like that.
All right. Okay. And this is great news. I had a very exciting conversation today with Facebook Rep, and by Facebook Rep I mean that this is someone who actually works at Facebook. It's not, it's not some company. And anyway, she she's basically, because of this spend that we have, we spend thousands of dollars every year with Facebook, and some of it is through you guys that I do the Facebook marketing done for you campaigns, and some of it is what I spend. So the combined spend has amounted to a point where they've assigned me my own Facebook rep, which is very exciting, because now what I'm doing is going through with her exactly the things. Now because they can go into my account, and which is what she did. She went into my account, she looked at it, and she came back, and we chatted this morning for about an hour and a half, and she took me through a whole bunch of things, told me what I needed to be doing with my accounts, how to improve it, all the new things, where I can get the best deals, etc., etc. And so, and I've already spoken a bit about this, but I'll go over it again to sort of show you how potentially exciting it is, and also to give you some early results that I've just done on remarketing. So let me start with the remarketing first, which is the first thing that she is recommending for me, which I already knew, but it was good to hear it from her. So the remarketing is that you've got a list here of 150 people already on your list who have potentially are people who you can still enroll. Now the problem is that if you email these people, a lot of the time they're not going to see the email. The email will go to spam, they won't read it, they've seen it before, whatever. So you do miss out on that. But, and as I'll explain a few things in a minute, taking that 150 students plus the students you've got on the other list, so let's say there's 250 altogether that you've accumulated in emails. What you do with that now is that we create a Facebook campaign just for those. We create a Facebook campaign for the 150, which go out to people who haven't enrolled with you, or even we could go to past students as well. So we can create the list, and then we market to those people via a Facebook campaign using a dedicated audience, and that's a remarketing campaign. So in other words, you're going back to those people again with a different offer, something slightly different. So that's one thing. But here's the next thing, is that we then take those people, all of the students you've got, plus all of the old inquiries, and we create what's called a lookalike campaign. And what that will do is they'll go and find people who look like your current list. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
All right, so we're building a list of people who are like what you already, people who are inquiring, and then from that you get more people coming in through your campaign who are more likely to be interested in what you're doing and inquire. So it brings down the cost of your ad. And then what happens is you got more coming in, you then create another lookalike campaign from those people, so you get this kind of growing people where it's really concentrated, instead of it being this we're just campaigning to anybody. What we're doing is we're campaigning to people who actually are interested in what we're doing, which brings down the cost of your ad. So you basically get more for your money, and you're really targeting. And I know that when we do this and we go through every stage of it, we're going to be able to really work out, through the Facebook medium. Of course, we could probably roughly say about 30% of your potential students are going to come through Facebook, which still leaves other ones, which is where the flyers come in. But you've already done a lot with the flyers, so you've kind of already, people know the flyers. The Facebook is a different crowd. There are people out there who would be on Facebook that have either seen your flyers and not responded, or haven't seen your flyer. So you've got this, this other market that we're going to tap into. Now, the other thing is that it will allow you to understand the potential of your location and where you can then open a second location, because every location is going to have a point where you're going to stop enrolling more students. It's just, there's only so many people that live in an area who want to learn guitar at any given time. So you've got to work out what that is for your area. The highest I got to was about 250, which was in Northbridge in Sydney. So you got to work out what that number is. It may not be 250, it may be 100, 150 for your area. But when you start to see that point, then okay, this is the potential of this area, this is how much rent I can spend, this is what it will cost to pay an employee to cover those students, this is what I can expect from this area. And then what you do is you start market testing for a second area. So rather than just go and open a second area, you run some Facebook campaigns and you see how it compares to your first campaigns on Facebook. And then you go, this area's got potential. because I already know that the Facebook ads are working. So it's not a risk for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
so that's what we're doing. That's how the marketing works. And Facebook, as I'm going to draw down more and more on Facebook, we're really going to know this and know where the potential is in each area. So in fact, we can do it together. You can say to me, well, look, I'm thinking of the second location. Where should we go? And then I'll say, well, let's do some tests. Let's spend £100 and test this area and see what happens. And spend £100 over here. And what we do is we take the students you've already got, or all the people on your list you've already got, and we create a lookalike campaign in another suburb. And then that way we target exactly the people in that area who are likely to want guitar lessons, and see if we get the same response or better than we have in our first area. And then that allows you, then you go, this area is going to work, it's cooking, we've got 20 inquiries, we've only spent, £200, £300, and we've got lots of inquiries, so therefore this is going to be viable. Let's go and find a location in that area. All right. So
Excellent.
yeah, it's very exciting. The other thing that she talked about was that your Facebook page. So where you've got people coming to your Facebook page, we can actually run ads to them as well. So anyone who's liked your Facebook page, we can run ads to. Anyone who, and we can also again create a lookalike campaign based on people who have liked your Facebook page, for whatever reason. So what we're doing is, instead of the flyers, which are great and they target your area and they're hitting, and they've worked, Facebook is going to be more about, let's find all the people in your area who are interested in guitar lessons, and let's keep advertising to them in different ways. The problem with the flyers is that we don't know where we're sending out one flyer to everybody in the area. The difference when you start running these Facebook ads is you can have a different ad to parents, you can have a different ad to older students, adult students. You can have a different ad based on the tastes of music they're into. There's lots of things that you can target in different ways. So you can, and plus it's very cheap and easy to test different things. With the flyer, if you want to test a new kind of design or a different picture or something, it's a lot of work to test it each time. Whereas Facebook, it doesn't take much work. We can, for £50, you can test a new design ad and see whether it works better than the old ad. So there's the upside of Facebook is huge, and it's just really a matter, because Facebook are improving as well. They're getting better at what they do. We're getting better at what we do. And now that I've got this personal assistant, so to speak, rep from Facebook, I'll be able to really get our ads honed in and up to date. She mentioned things about doing Instagram. I know Instagram appeals to a younger crowd, but she said the ads there are really cheap at the moment. So she absolutely recommends that we do some Instagram ads, because we'll get a lot more exposure for a lot less money. She talked about doing carousel ads, and that's where instead of seeing just one picture, they see a series of pictures. And so in that way, it can tell a story. It can also appeal to different people by having the carousel ad. Of course, video ads as well. So all that sort of stuff is what we're working on and what we're going to be testing. If you want to jump back into Facebook, let's talk, and I'm very excited about it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been wondering about if I've sort of reached the saturation point or not, because I'm having trouble just hitting 80 students. I mean, I really want to get to 200. Like I'm ready to be there. I have the facilities and the systems for it. But I think there's more, because there's actually a fair amount of guitar schools in this town that whose rent I know for a fact is higher than mine. So
yeah, there may be some other factors involved.
Yeah,
it may be that the flyer, they've seen it too many times. You need something different, fresh. That's possible. I'm happy to work on a different design for you, but you want to test it first. You don't want to go and do too many. Just do something. Maybe do 5,000 and see what happens. But that's possible. But I would definitely the way that Facebook is going, I think that for everybody across the network, I see a time when the flyers will become less. I think right now they're still performing well for most of you, and I don't want to recommend not to use them, but I see a point where Facebook is going to become the easiest way to connect to your audience, because of the remarketing potential. Then once someone you get a pixel, they get a cookie on their computer, or you get their email address, any of those kind of things, or they like your Facebook page. Once you've got them in your system, you can keep going back and marketing to them very cheaply. And I just wanted to share, which I'll sort of wrap up in a minute, but I just want to share quickly the results that I've got from my own remarketing campaign that I just did, and that is that I have this list of people who didn't buy. These are people who have seen my ads. And this is guys like you, right? Guitar teachers. They've seen my ads. They haven't bought anything, and so I sent out to them my. I started doing some remarketing, and it's costing me. It's cost me so far roughly around $30 to advertise to these guys, and I've got just from the $30, I've got 10 times my money back, more than 10 times, about 12 times my money back, just from $30 with that. I was just testing it, just test this little. I did a special offer, get 30 days into our member site to learn about G4 and blah blah blah. And so for $30, and this is going. If I had spent that $30 on new people, I would have been lucky to sell one thing. $30 here I've sold. Basically I've sold to. I think I've sold about 10 now of these 10 different people. So that's remarketing. So that's the power of remarketing, is you're going to people who are already interested in you. They've already looked at your ads, they're already familiar with who you are. They just need the right offer. Okay. All right. So any last questions? Shane, has that helped you?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to set my budget for the month and then send you an email later. And
right.
I should have some more money for advertising because my wife has finally gone back to work, so I don't have to carry the whole burden anymore, which is helpful. So cool. Yeah. So you got a bit of breathing room there. Yep. Yeah. But like I said, Ben, don't get too comfortable. It's good when you're not too comfortable. Yeah.
Always be hungry. Okay. Cool. Well, we'll leave it there, and yeah, guys, just keep your mind on that 100 students, and for those of you like Ben who are sort of at that point where you need to sort of step back a bit, take the break, enjoy it, work out what you need, and then get ready to sort of go to the next level. That's what I'm doing now. I'm taking my break until I get to Japan in January, and then I'm back on track, ramping it all up. But I'm also learning Facebook. I really want to spend time focusing on that rather than trying to induct new clients. And so sometimes it's good to just focus on a few things, learn some more stuff, get better at what you do, and then get ready for the next phase of your growth. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging around. It was a long one. Great. See you next time.
Thanks, David.
Bye-bye. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.